Bueno, buenas tardes a todos. Pues nada, bueno, vamos a presentar la charla de Haim aquí, que todos ya sabéis. Ante todo nos vamos a presentar, yo soy Cristina, él es Dam, también conocido como Dam, somos de Ludo, la Asociación de Creadores de Juegos de Mesa, que algunos ya conocéis, y los que no, pues que sepáis que hay una asociación española de autores, de ilustradores y de traductores de juegos de mesa aquí en España, por si no lo sabíais. Y nada, bueno, lo que hacemos en Ludo es básicamente pues un poco ayudar, hay bastantes charlas, antes se ha dado una charla sobre la guía de buenas prácticas. Y bueno, tenemos aquí a Haim, que lo han traído gracias a la organización del evento, al que tenemos que dar las gracias por darnos la oportunidad de presentar hoy aquí a un gran profesional, y también a Mercurio, obviamente, que habéis traído muchos juegos y estáis publicando muchos de sus juegos aquí en España. Bueno, voy a presentar un poquito a Haim. Pues Haim es un autor, lleva más de... Hello, Haim. How many years have you been designing? How did you start?
Since
30?
1979, so it's
79.
almost 40 years.
Casi 40 años lleva diseñando, dedicándose a esto de los juegos de mesa, con lo cual yo creo que tenemos aquí a una persona que sabe de lo que habla. Jaime es ingeniero mecánico, no sé si lo sabéis, se dedicó un par de años a trabajar por cuenta ajena, y luego ya se pasó primero empezó con juegos de madera, y cuando vio que los jueguecitos de madera pues no eran lo suyo, o eran demasiado caros, costaban de producir, pues se pasó a juegos de mesa. Ahora mismo tiene una editorial propia, Haim Shafir Games, con su familia, e incluso tiene uno de sus hijos trabaja también con ellos. Y bueno, tiene juegos tan famosos como el Taki, el Halli Galli, el Cuckoo Trash y el Speed Cups, el Isla Calavera también, que ese ha salido creo hace poco. Y bueno, todos los juegos a los que publica la editorial, pues básicamente son juegos los que le llamaríamos familiares, son juegos party, que es un poco la idea que tiene Haim de juntar a la familia alrededor de la mesa. Family games, right?
Family games.
Yeah. Pues eso, ha estado nominado en Essen, ha estado nominado en Francia, aquí en Córdoba también ha estado nominado a algún premio, alguno de sus juegos. Así que bueno, hoy nos va a traer una presentación sobre la paradoja de la creatividad, una charla. Es una charla muy interesante y que bueno, enseguida vamos a escuchar. Okay, Haim?
Okay.
You can start.
Okay. You know, everybody speaks English, right? You understand? And the camera also. I've been a creative person all my life. And, you know, the difference between creative people who live from creativity, and people who sometimes they are creative, or they are being normal, you know, and sometimes they are creative. The difference is that normal people, when they have a problem, they look for a solution, right? That's normal. Creative people, when they have a problem, you know what they look for? Solutions with S, in plural. Creative people differ from normal people, not because they are better, because they are stubborn. They are more curious and they are more stubborn, and when they run into a solution, they don't stop. They look for more solutions. This is basically the biggest difference between those people who consider themselves, or the society consider them to be creative, and those who are normal, but they can be creative from time to time. And a lot of people, well, I've been talking about creativity all my life, and what is important for me is to speak about creativity in a way that everybody can understand. Creative people as well as normal people. Because creative people are not normal, they're crazy. They are not settled with one solution, they want more solutions. The best way to explain creativity is by very simple demonstration. You have to imagine that I put a group of people in a room and I put a piece of clay on the table and I ask everybody to tell me what he sees. Everybody will say, well, this is clay. It's a piece of clay. And they will be right. Then I send them away. I call a sculptor and I tell the sculptor, please take this piece of paper, clay, and change it so it looks like a horse. But don't add more clay or don't take away clay. The same clay, just change the shape so it looks like a horse. And then I invite another group of people and I say to them, can you tell me what you see on the table? Nobody will say clay. They will say a horse. Some will say a statue of a horse, but nobody will say that's a piece of clay. What happened? The artist changed what they see. They stopped seeing the clay and they started seeing the shape of the horse. Why didn't they say before it's a square, because a piece of clay is a square? Why didn't they say it's a square? Because our brain looks for a meaning. Whenever we look at something, we look for a meaning, a meaningful meaning. A square doesn't have a meaning, but a horse has a lot of meaning. So the horseness, the horse, attracted our attention and captured it, and that is exactly what a creative person is doing. He takes shapes, changes them in various ways that in a minute we will see how we can change them, and he forces the viewers to relate to it in a different way that they related to it before. This is what creative people do. Take, for instance, a painter. He takes canvas, he takes some paints, he puts on the canvas, and he forces you to look at it as painting. Very simple. Why do you look at it as a painting? Because it's in a museum, because it has a frame. It can be an abstract, but it's a painting and you look for meaning in the painting. The same goes with games. The game inventor creates a certain structure in which you don't look at the pawns and the board and the card as cards and boards. You start to imagine the world that was created by the inventor with the pieces to capture your mind and behave as if you live, you exist, you behave in this particular world. Everybody can be creative. Very simple. We can all be creative now. I will show you how easy it is. Let's imagine that I have a piece of paper in my hand. Imagine, you need imagination for creativity. Let's imagine I have a piece of paper and I give it to you. You hold it in your imaginary hand and you think how you can make it be something else, not a piece of paper. Think about it. How can you take a piece of paper and make it into something else which is not a piece of paper? Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Origami. Can
yeah,
I move? Can I move? I can move. Wait. Oh, just a minute. Okay. You can make origami. You can make a boat.
A painting.
A painting, right? Yes. You can write. You can write on it. Papier mâché, right? We could make an airplane, hat, or airplane. Okay? Or airplane with I never mind. Or you can make papier-mâché by dipping it into water, right? Paper mache. Oh, sorry. This is not here. This is paper mache. And one thing you forgot, I can burn it. And I will put, I can have more examples, but whatever you say, and no matter how more examples we add, they will all go into one of the three categories. Can you see what is the category here? What shall I write here?
The shape.
Exactly. The shape. And what is here? What do I do here? What is in common in all this?
Add something.
Add, right. And what do I do here when I burn?
Change the material.
Destroy. Take away. What do you do when you burn something? You take away the water. So, how shall I put it? Take out. Okay.
But at all, when you burn it, you make the paper to another thing, that is the ashes.
What? Yes, that's right. But you do it by taking the water away. That's what burning means.
Ah, okay.
So, I have a surprise for you. Creativity is very simple. You can either you change what it is to change its meaning by one or more of the three options. Changing the shape, adding something to it, or taking away something from it. Let's take, for instance, a painting. You take a canvas, you add the paint, and you get a picture. Sculpture, you take a stone, you take away some of the pieces, you get the paint, you get the sculpture. You write a book, you add the letters on the paper, etc., etc., etc. So it's so simple. A child goes to the kindergarten. He comes back home with a painting, you know. The kindergarten teacher, she gave him some paintings. He paints on the canvas or on the paper. He comes home. It's art. He created something. He did one of the three, or several of them. You know, you can do this together with, you know, you don't have to stick to only one technique of creating. You can combine them. So what is the difference between what Michelangelo did or Picasso to what the children bring from school? Because this is art, this is creativity, and this is art. So they're both creations, but what makes the difference between what Picasso did and what the child who comes from the kindergarten at the age of 4? What is the difference? I'll tell you what the difference is. The difference is the residual value that it brings into the world. Everything which obeys this law can be called creative or creativity. But the value of creativity is the value it brings into the world. Innovation is creativeness with value. So when we want to be creative, it's very, very easy. Change something, add to it, take away, or change the shape, you're creative. But if you want to have value for your creativity, the outcome must contribute something to the world. It must have some value that the world can use. So that is the paradox of creativity. Everybody can be creative, but very few can make their creativity useful and innovative for the world. What makes it valuable? I mean, you can say, you know, you take the painting of the child, you hang it on the refrigerator, it has a lot of value to the parents. So is the value determined by how many people enjoy the painting? No, not necessarily. The value of creation is how potent it is. How many other creative people are influenced by it, and they become more creative just by being exposed to that creation. So the value of creativity is the potential to influence the world in a way that it will keep progressing and keep progressing and keep progressing. If you look at any style of art, any fashion, if it comes and goes and nobody hears about it anymore, then the amount of innovation is very, very little. But if it changes the whole direction of the historical fashion world, or painting, or sculpting, or technology, that's a strong, valuable innovation with high creativity. The question is, how can we train people? How can we train people who are creative to be also innovators? And that is the most important part of becoming a professional creative person. A professional creative person, like a game inventor, must always strive to create games which leave a mark on the society. Wow, that's big. But if you don't strive so high, you will never be a game inventor. Now, how things come into life? How do I find, many people ask me, where do ideas come from? And that's, I will tell you, this is the question that creative people hate the most, because we don't know. We really don't know. If you ask a creative person, a professional creative person, about the origin of his inspiration, he will bullshit you. He will give you some answers because you want to hear an answer, but he will bullshit you. The truth is we don't know. It happens to us. It happens to us if we are sensitive. It happens to us if we are curious. It happens to us if we are listening. Listening to what? I don't know. Sometimes I can listen to a stupid conversation in a cafe by two girls sitting beside me, and I get an idea. How? I don't know. But stay open and look for more and more and more answers. Innovations come into the world in three, also everything is in three, from three sources. The first source, before I tell you what the first source is, I will tell you an interesting story. Everybody knows the trolley. You walk into the... Okay. If you look at the movies, you're young, you don't remember. If you look into the movies, in the 70s, 60s, 70s, you look at the movies and you see the airport, nobody has a trolley. They carry their suitcases in their hands. You know that? Now, how come? Why didn't they have trolleys? Because, trolleys are suitcases with the wheels. Why did they put wheels before? Because they didn't have to. Because in the 70s, in the 50s and the 60s, and also in the beginning of the 70s, only rich people flew to other countries. Rich people can afford to pay the porter. Rich people can afford, the flight costs so much. So you pay another $2 for the guy who takes care of your suitcases. You leave the hotel, you pay $1 to the guy in the hotel, he puts it in the taxi. You reach the airport, immediately two people come, they take your suitcases, they put them, you don't touch your suitcases. Because you're rich enough to fly abroad, you're rich enough to pay $1 here, $1 there, $1. Suddenly the price of flight went down and down and down and down. So people who are not so rich started to fly. And those who are not so rich, they're also hungry and creative. And they started to carry their suitcases, and it started to hurt them. And one of them said, fuck, sorry. If all the porters, they have this trolley, you know, to carry the suitcase, I will make myself a small trolley. If you remember, in the beginning, the wheels were not in the suitcases. They were a small trolley that you carry with you. So they made the small trolley, and they put the suitcases, and they don't have to pay the $5 or $6 or whatever dollars to the guy in the airport and the hotel. They save a lot of money. For them, it's a lot of money, because they were not rich as the people who flew in the 50s and 60s. And then somebody said, oh, what a great idea. People like to have their suitcases with wheels. So they put the wheels in the suitcases, and then they become smaller. And now you don't find suitcases without wheels. Try to find ones. So the first drive for this innovation was the need. Because when there was no need for wheels in suitcases, there was no wheels in suitcases. But the need is only one of the sources of creativity. There is another source of creativity. The other source of creativity, let me learn. So the first is the need. The second, there is another, I'll tell another story. There is a big joke, very famous joke. A French company that makes shoes sent their salesperson, their international salesperson, to Africa, and he came, you know the joke, to see the potential of selling shoes in Africa. And he called them back and he said, nah, forget about it. They don't need shoes, they all go barefoot. Then they sent another one, and he sends another telegram back and he said, oh, what a huge potential, they are all barefoot. They are all barefoot. So it depends how you look at the opportunity. So it's not that they don't need shoes, they're walking, but you can open them for the potential, because it's possible. You won't believe, but things suddenly, when they become possible, the possibility of changing their habit was always there, until one company came and started to promote the idea of wearing shoes, you know, in Africa. So the potential, or how shall I put it, the possibility. The second source of creativity is the possibility. Sometimes things are not possible, and due to technology, due to change of weather, due to change of habits, due to change of something, changes in the surrounding, and suddenly there is a new possibility. Now, nature drives creativity when there is a possibility. This is a strong drive for creativity. Just because it was not possible yesterday, suddenly it's possible. So possibility is a very, very strong source of creativity. And the third one is, how shall I say in English? You know, when people do something creative, they need to sell it. So somebody must have a value. It has a certain value. They must create a certain value or profit to somebody to drive his desire to put money in developing. So it has to be valuable to somebody or to the whole chain. it must have value. It must create value. Like, if I start making games and if I start inventing games and I don't make money, how long can I continue doing it? I mean, people must get paid for what they do. So an innovation must be valuable, must create value. Now, it can start from suddenly you see a certain value in something, so you go ahead and you try to do it. It can start from just because there is possibility, or it can start because there is a need. But it will stay and flourish and survive if it fulfills all three. So, let's say we're in the game business. Let's say a game inventor invents a game because it was possible for him. Okay? It was possible. He had an idea. He had some paper and cards, whatever, and he presented the game into the world by showing it to a publisher. The publisher was a young publisher. He needed more and more games. So he saw a new idea. He licensed the game and he started selling the game. Now, the publisher will continue selling the game as long as the buyers, the players, see the value of giving money for that box. So each step in the process must bear value. It's like the blood in the veins. The value, every step of a creative element or piece or creative piece, any piece, must bring value when it changes hands. That's a law. Now, artist sits in his atelier and he paints. He doesn't need value. The value is, emotional. He likes to paint it. But he will be able to sell it only if there is a gallery who sees the value of presenting it, paying rent for the, usually it's very expensive, the rent of a gallery, only if they can resell it to collectors. Collector will buy it only if they see value in keeping it, either by showing off to their friends or keeping it for several years. Maybe they can make more money, whatever. The whole cycle of creativity, of innovations, must have value to whomever touches it and move it onwards. So the need drives it, the possibility allows it, and the value keeps it alive. These are the three elements that hold innovations in the cycle. Now, I want to end this theoretical and philosophical speech with a small game with all of us. There is a game that Mercurio is running. It's called, how do you? Conectar. And it's about brainstorm and creativity. People sit around the table and they try to match cards to find a nice expression that is embodied by the two cards that they find. Now let's see how you do it. Some of you know it. If you look at these cards, what expression, very common expression, comes to your mind? Birthday. You see? If I show it to you and I say birthday, you accept it? So I win the two cards. It has to be accepted by everybody else. Easy, right? You see. Now this is creativity. You take two pictures, which can be anything by themselves. This can be a baby, but it can also be birth.
The other one.
It can represent birth. And this is a calendar, but together it forces you to see the day. This is how the mind is creative. Let's take another Another example, those who know it. What is this, I ask you? What expression? Very famous.
Salary day.
The time is value.
Time is money.
Time is money.
Time is money. That's a typical English expression, but it's very famous. Time is money. American, you know, American will say time is money. But this is money, and this is a clock. But you can look and say, oh, with this, it's time. Time is money.
Brainstorming.
Uh-huh. You see, you are getting warm. That's rainstorm. You see, it's an umbrella, but your mind can see the storm by the way it looks. And this is head with wheels, so you see the brain. And this is difficult, but I want to see if you can do it. One word. But it's beautiful. One word.
Siren? ¿Cómo se llama la sirena?
You want a hint?
Yeah.
Musical band? Police.
Yeah.
Okay, these are just 4 examples of this game. The beauty of the game is that nobody believes they can become so creative by playing it together, because creativity is infectionate. When somebody around the table starts to be creative and come up with beautiful phrases, others get infected, and the creativity around the table spirals up and up and up and up. And I recommend this game highly for those who want to spend a wonderful evening with friends and a little beer or wine, whatever. Okay, if there is any question, I will take them. You prepare the questions?
Si alguien tiene alguna pregunta, podéis hacerla en español o lo que sea y nosotros la traducimos. Empezaré yo, que tengo una pregunta. I have a question. I want to ask if this game that you showed to us now, you think that it's a good way to start a project? I mean, if you are with a team where you are going to make a game or something creative, you can play first this, so you start getting in touch.
It's possible.
As a warm-up.
Of course.
Yeah, as a warm-up.
Of course. Anything that drives you to become more creative is helpful. If this helps you, great. If singing with friends helps you, great. Whatever. But this can be very, very helpful. You're right.
Bueno, que comenta que a cada persona le puede servir una cosa cuando están creando cualquier tipo de proyecto, ya sea juego o lo que sea, pero si esto te puede ayudar, pues adelante, que el calentar pues es una buena opción, sea con lo que sea, cantando o jugando, como sea.
You said it in Spanish, but I need translation.
I was translating what you said.
Okay.
¿Alguna pregunta? ¿Alguna...?
Yo tengo una pregunta. Okay, so let's talk about in the process when you start a project about a game. Let's say for you, for example, you have an idea, and how do you refine it? Which is the process normally that you do to refine a game or whatever, an idea. So I'm going to translate, okay?
First of all,
yeah, I will translate.
Okay.
Bueno, le he preguntado que cuando empiezan con un juego, cómo es el proceso de maduración de ese juego, de esa idea que tienen, ¿vale? Okay, you can...
Can I answer now?
Yeah.
You have to understand that the idea is just the first step. The way from idea to a final product can be long, and sometimes in terms of months and months or even years. Why? Because perfecting the process from idea, abstract, to a real physical tool that creates the game has a lot of steps of testing, changing, adding, getting disappointed, finding another solution, going this and that. When you finish a game, it usually looks a good game. It usually looks like so simple. Why didn't I think of it? And if I tell you that a game like Halli Galli, which is one of my, no, it's my most successful game around the world, and Halli Galli was developed in a process. It looks very, very simple if you know what Halli Galli is. Between the original idea and the final product took 2 years. It's not that in two years I was working only on this, but the process took 2 years until I refined it completely to the way it is today. It's testing and testing and testing and perfecting, and there is no rule except for be patient and search for excellence. Don't settle for less.
Bueno, ha comentado que en el fondo la parte del refinado lo más importante es empezar con una buena idea. El problema está en que a partir de ahí pues tenemos que pasar una serie de meses e incluso años hasta que esa idea la podemos llegar a plasmar, buscar diferentes soluciones, llegar a ser disappointed, es decir, llegar a decepcionarnos algunas veces y estar buscando, hasta que lleguemos a un punto de perfección en el juego. Su juego más famoso, que es Halli Galli, tardó 2 años en llegar a refinarse hasta el punto hasta que está ahora y pasó por varias fases de testeo, mucho testeo hasta lo que ha llegado a ser ahora, y su premisa principal es intentar llegar hasta un punto en el que lleguemos a la perfección, no conformarte nunca con menos porque hará que el juego no acabe redondo. ¿Alguna otra pregunta?
Just to deep a bit on the question that she just made. That first idea that you refine, it's when they teach on game design, they say that you have to work on a game mechanic. But for example, this morning, Sandy Peterson here said that for his latest game, he thought about the theme of the game, and then he thought of the mechanics later, the mechanics that better suited the theme. So, what about you in that sense? Do you think of a theme, of a way you want the game to be felt, to be seen? Or do you think about a mechanic that you think that is interesting, that is fun, and then you build the rest around that?
Okay, the theme and the mechanics of the game are combined. You have to remember that a game is a small world that I, as the inventor, my job is to lure you. You know what to lure? To lure is to tempt you, temptation. Yeah. I have to tempt you to dive into the world that I created. Why would you do it? Only if you believe that it will bring you joy. You will have some benefit out of it. Because if you go to work, they will pay you in the end. If you play a leisure game, nobody's going to pay you. Your satisfaction and your pleasure and your joy is the only reason why you do it, right? Now I have to approach you as a person or anybody else, and learn what brings joy into your life. And I try to put this in the game, making sure that you will understand, that you understand the promise. It's either by the theme or by the game mechanics, but together the game mechanics and the theme are like the whole structure of the world. I'm inviting you to step in, and it will create the process of suspension of disbelief. You heard about this term? For those of you who didn't hear about this term, suspension of disbelief is the maximum we can expect from a person who goes into the game. Not believing, but suspending the disbelief. Why? Because if you believe, it's not a game. You have to remember that life is out there waiting for you, so you suspend the disbelief and you jump into the world. My job is to help you to suspend your disbelief. Sometimes a strong theme, sometimes it's a strong mechanics, but they always have to be combined. You have to think and to feel that they are born together. Sometimes there is a 2 years difference between the game mechanics and the theme, but you as a player must feel that they are born together. Okay?
La pregunta principalmente iba sobre la mecánica y el tema, si tenían que ser implementados en un mismo momento, en el momento de refinado donde la encontramos, iba por ahí más o menos la pregunta, y dónde podíamos encontrarlos, si empezábamos haciendo primero el tema, si empezamos con la mecánica, y nos ha contestado que tienen que ser algo que va absolutamente junto, no necesariamente tienen que ser creados a la vez, pero para el espectador, para la persona que va a jugar ese juego, tiene que sentir que ambas cosas han estado creadas a la vez y que le invitan a entrar en un mundo que tiene que ser tentador para que esa persona quiera realmente jugar a ese juego, ya que nadie te está dando nada más allá que el jugar a ese juego, y esa tiene que ser una experiencia placentera y tiene que ser suficientemente potente como para que tú quieras meterte en ese mundo en el que te ha invitado a entrar, olvidándote momentáneamente de que estás en un mundo, en el mundo real. Te metes en el mundo, juegas esa partida y cuando sales vuelves hasta el mundo real, pero te lo has pasado bien y has querido tener esa experiencia gratificante. ¿Alguna otra pregunta?
That's it?
I think so.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Vídeo patrocinado por Juegos de la Mesa Redonda, tu tienda de juegos de mesa online.